A movie with a cast this talented has my curiosity, but a movie directed by Quentin Tarantino has my attention. I'm Johnnie Omega, and here's my review of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. In 1969 Los Angeles, TV star Rick Dalton and his longtime stunt double Clint Booth make their way around the industry that they hardly recognize anymore. This movie is directed by Quentin Tarantino and stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Margot Robbie. Starting with what I liked about the movie, the number one thing is the acting. And along with the writing by Quentin Tarantino, that combination really comes across great on screen. Leonardo DiCaprio is one of my favorite actors, and I don't think this is his best performance, but it's definitely in the conversation. He plays an actor in this movie, so when you see him on set filming, in essence what you're watching is an actor playing a role. And from an acting perspective, I think that's more difficult than people realize. I would actually go as far as to say that I think his performance in this movie is one of the best performances that I've seen all year so far. And besides DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Margot Robbie, there's a whole lot of other famous actors crammed in this movie. Al Pacino, Luke Perry, Kurt Russell, just too many people to name. This movie is a who's who of talent. Unfortunately though, a lot of these actors are pretty much just glorified cameos, but they are good in the scenes that they're in. Another thing I liked about this movie was the atmosphere. This movie takes place in 1969, and you definitely get a 60s vibe watching this movie. From the big things like the buildings and the cars, all the way down to the little things like the appliances and the furniture, you can definitely see that there was a lot of effort put into making this period piece work. And for the most part, I liked a lot of the dialogue too. Quentin Tarantino is very good at making interesting and engaging dialogue, especially when there's not a lot of things going on in the scene. I don't think he did it as good in this movie as he has in some of his other movies, but overall, I still liked it. Which leads me to what I didn't like about the movie, particularly the second act. Not the second act as a whole, but the majority of the second act bordered between uninteresting and boring. The movie altogether is about 2 hours and 40 minutes, which means the second act alone is roughly about an hour, and that's a long time to border between uninteresting and boring. My initial thought after the movie was that there was at least 30 or 40 minutes that could have been cut out, but then after doing some research, I found out that there were already a lot of scenes that were cut from this movie. Tim Roth, James Marsden, and James Remar all had scenes that were cut from this movie. My first thought after seeing that was, yo, how long would the director's cut of this movie be? Another issue that I had with the movie is by the time you get to the second act, you can't help but wonder, where is this movie going? What's the point of what's happening? The story set up in the first act is interesting and it's engaging, but compared to other Tarantino films, I would say that the plot that moves the story along is pretty weak. Which brings me to the issue that I had with Margot Robbie's character. I did like her performance in this movie. She did a great job acting-wise, but her necessity to this movie was non-existent. Now, Tarantino was known for having multiple storylines going on in his movie, and then at some point in the movie, the paths of the characters cross. And technically in this movie that does happen, but the path crossing is so loose that you're practically watching two different movies. Margot Robbie takes up a lot of screen time in this movie, and you literally could have cut out her entire character and it wouldn't have changed anything to the central plot. I actually think if Tarantino would have cut her character out of the movie, it would have made the movie a lot better because most of what I found uninteresting had to do with her. And another thing I didn't really like about this movie is more of a nitpick than an actual complaint, but based on the synopsis that came out last year, I actually thought this movie was going to have a little more to do with the Manson family than it actually does. Now, I'm not mad because what Tarantino gave us with the Manson family was actually done great. It just wasn't as much as I expected going in. So in conclusion, the story was good, the acting was good by everybody. There really isn't a weak link in this movie from that perspective. And the movie could have been edited better because it's definitely about 30 or 40 minutes too long. When it really comes down to it, this movie is about two friends just trying to navigate the twilight of their Hollywood careers. And when that's on screen, this movie really shines. Give me a movie focused on that and cut out all of Margot Robbie's parts, and you definitely have one of Tarantino's better works, but as presently constructed, it's not really what I would show somebody if I was trying to turn them on to Tarantino. All that being said, I'd still say this movie is worth a watch. So comment below and let me know what you guys thought of the movie. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, hit that thumbs up and click that subscribe button to see what we got coming next.